Currently, the Department of Sociology, we have a collaboration with the Marcos University in Ethiopia and Innsbruck University in Austria. We are collaborating to enhance PhD teaching, co-supervision. Last year, 3 of us, it's Africa Uninet, under the Africa Uninet platform. 3 of us were in Austria where we taught, supervised student project, interacted with the faculty, and also helped them to review their curriculum. They were expected to be in Nigeria this month, but unfortunately there is crisis in Ethiopia, so they couldn't get visa. So that's why they are not here. They will come later. Then next year, we also will go to Ethiopia to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. The Department of Linguistics, African and Asian Studies, the Chinese unit, we have a partnership with Suzhou University in China, and we run a program, a 2-1-1 program, where at year 3 we send our students over there to spend a semester, a session, an academic session, and after that, then they come back here. And also we have an exchange program where our staff members, the faculty, can actually go there for a training program for master's or PhD program, then come back, and we try to adopt the Chinese way of teaching Chinese here. And they adopt our curriculum to teach our students Chinese over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It seems as if we are already internationalizing at the University of Lagos. So I think that's is a very good experience that we all shared. So I'm going to invite the DVC Development Services to give opening remarks.
Dear colleagues, good morning. Thank you very much, Professor Ibrahim. I warmly welcome you to this final day of the International Week of the University of Lagos. Internationalization is a clearly defined strategy of the University of Lagos. It's not incidental. Universities have always engaged in international collaboration, but to define internationalization as both a mission alongside other things to the end of realizing the university's vision is a very strategic issue. And that is why we're here. If internationalization were just going to be left on the level of, oh, we are doing our thing in our department, you're doing your thing in your department, then yes, we will be doing that, but we will not be able to develop a strategic direction. We will not have defined what exactly it is we want all the little bits and pieces that we're doing to achieve. So about some 15 years ago, under the University of Lagos strategic plan, internationalization was identified as a critical pillar if the university is going to achieve its aim to be one of the topmost universities in the world. Because as we know, in the very nature of universities, they are melting points. They're places where people come to for knowledge, to exchange knowledge, you know, in search of knowledge, to disseminate knowledge. So universities have always been about the universe. And to ensure that we actually do achieve our goals, it became very important for us to be more strategic about that. I think we could get away with not being strategic about that in the period before globalization. But globalization in all its ramifications now means that we're all just a global village. And if anybody was still challenging that, COVID taught us otherwise. All you needed to do was have infection in one country, and in a space of 3 months, the whole world was shut down. So we learned that our problems are global. Our problems are global. We talk of climate change, how you live in one part of the world impacts on, the future of the environment and the quality of life in another part. And I am in law, and in law, there were things that were very territorial. When I started my career, there was no such thing as cross-border crime. It didn't exist. We didn't talk about it. We talked about international crimes to the extent that we were saying there were crimes against humanity. But nobody talked about crimes that were trans-border or cross-border, because criminal law was territorial. It was always territorial. You can only be guilty of a crime when you commit it within this particular territory. But in my short career, I have seen that crime is no longer territorial. And only a few weeks ago, we learned the story of the young boy who was a victim of extortion, what we call sextortion, and who committed suicide. And, the issue is, where did that crime happen? Was it where the sextortion was taking place, or was it where he actually committed suicide? And we have cybercrime, we have, all the traffickings, whether it's human and everything, and it's changed the landscape because we have global social problems. If as researchers, we're going to respond to social problems, if universities are going to be effective as learning and teaching arenas responsive to social purpose, if I may borrow the language of the words of the Vice Chancellor of University of Dundee, who gave the keynotes during this International Week. Universities, what do they exist for? Social purpose. Knowledge is not knowledge, just as an end in itself. Knowledge is to serve the good of the society. So if we're going to respond to our global social purpose, then we must be talking to one another. We must be working more structured, more directed. And for us also, that also means that we must show the world that we have something to offer. If we're not visible in the international plane, if we don't have friends who can give references to us and recommendations, and we all know how important that is. If we don't have partners with whom we've worked and who are able to say, go to University of Lagos, without a doubt, you will have capacity in all its ramifications and your work will be successful. Then we can't really be a university of global status, and our aspiration, nobody wants to be a local champion. I don't think that we all intend to start and end our lives as local champions. We actually want to be global champions, not as an end in itself, but to give the world the very best of us. So it is against that backdrop that University of Lagos is very focused on the issue of internationalization. And you know how much we have driven ourselves even to get into the Times Higher Education ranking so that we can be ranked alongside our peers. We were doing great, but unfortunately, no thanks to the strike, no thanks to all its impact and everything, we did go down significantly this year, but with all your support, because I expect that by the time we're done today, we will all be a team and we will understand what it is that we're trying to do. So it's against that backdrop that we have internationalization as a major pillar. And the international office, I'll leave Professor Ibrahim to carry out his test, but the international office has been hanging around for going on about 12, 13 years now. It's more than 10. And 3 years ago, we started the International Week. Not 3 years ago, 2019, we started the International Week. COVID interrupted. The industrial action last year also affected us somewhat, but we're here again, and we shall we are the future. You are the more people here than me are the future of the University of Lagos. This is just to ensure that we carry ourselves along. We do the experience sharing, and I want to thank you all for honoring this invitation. We'll make it as interactive as possible. The speakers will just share from their own experiences directly, and then we'll just open up the floor, and if we'll see what comes out of it. But it's just to get the conversation of internationalization going very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam DVC. Please, can we give her another round of applause? I just want to, she said that when we say internationalization, it is intentional, and it's something that the university is committed to do. But I think it needs a bit of some extras, dedication, sacrifice from us. My first encounter, I didn't know I would actually be appointed into this position. I was at Leicester University as a British traveling scholar in 1996-97. And when I was in Leicester, they knew that I'm from Nigeria, and they said that, oh, they just started this program, MSc, Masters in Mass Communication, and they want to introduce it to Nigeria. And they thought that perhaps I can assist them to introduce it. And I said, why not? So, and I did that when I came back to Nigeria. And that was how it started. And it was successful. And then they invited me again to say that, please, can you help us to introduce some other courses? I did, but eventually I went back to Leicester for my PhD. So that was when it stopped. And when I was appointed as the Deputy Director of International Office, I read mass communication, but I have a master's in international relations. And actually that's helped me a lot, to try to understand some of the things we've got to do. But we are 10 years, but we are still evolving. And every day, sometimes I get overwhelmed by requests from colleagues, for things that are purely administrative, and I said, look, my day job, I'm a professor of journalism and communication studies. I still teach. I teach undergraduate, I teach postgraduate, and I have PhD students that I still supervise, but at least we have to sacrifice for the university. And that is, I'm very confident that at the end of this workshop, we are going to go away, with a renewed energy and a lot of commitment from colleagues who are going to support us to take that, international dream back to our various departments. So I'm going to, I'll still come back to my test, but let me invite Professor Peter McLevy to share his own experience with us from University of Dundee. Okay, while they are sorting out the technical bits, do we have anybody who wants to share their experience again with those of international collaboration?
Thank you very much, sir. Currently at the Faculty of Law, we have a collaboration with the University of Pretoria, and it actually started a couple of years back. The collaboration involved 10 other universities in Africa, and we jointly run a master's program in human rights and democratization in Africa. So the students are admitted in South Africa from all over Africa. I think about between 15 to 20 students, they are on scholarship. And then the students will spend their about 3-4 months here. 2 students come to Nigeria. Other students also go to different parts of Africa. So when they come here, one of our faculty co-supervises their master's dissertation. And then they also take French classes from our language department. And after they've completed their dissertation, they go back to South Africa. And usually we participate in the annual graduation program, which holds sometimes in December. The graduation program holds usually in December, and we participate in that. In addition to that, some of our colleagues have also had opportunity to go to South Africa to teach part of the courses. About 1 or 2 or 3 of our colleagues have been to South Africa. And we've also had jointly organized 1 or 2 lectures, with the people in South Africa. So it's been a very fruitful collaboration.
How we can create practical connection that, in my view, would be important for getting opportunity and actually just scale up this so we can actually offer pathways to more students. So you mentioned about 20 to 25 students participate. Is that shared, and then you also mentioned 10 universities participators? So would that be each university would have some form of quota for the number of students?
No, the students actually apply from all over Africa, from all the African countries, and then they go through a selection process. It is the 3rd part of the semester that is held in partner universities. So we have universities from, I think, Kenya, Cameroon, Republic of Benin, and all over Africa. So the students apply from all over Africa, and then they get selected and the students elect which of the partner universities they want to go and do their 3rd semester.
Are costs covered? Do the students have scholarships through their home?
Yes, all the students admitted in that master's program are on scholarship. No, through the University of Pretoria gets sponsorship from European Union and various other sources to fund the scholarship. Yeah. Yeah.
Do I need to use the microphone or not? Unless it's for recording. Okay. So sorry for the technical hiccups. It's great to be able to join you to share some lessons and experiences of mine over the last few years in the field of internationalization. First thing I'd like to say is the screens are best here. I know that most people are there. So if you do want to move to get a better view, feel free. There's lots of empty seats on this side. So if you do want to have a better view, just feel free to move over there if you would like. None of you would like to move? You must have fantastic eyesight, much better than me. So Professor Ismail asked me to sort of share some of my experiences as an academic who has gotten involved in internationalization over the last few years. And that's what I'm going to do over a series of slides. And Prof. Io, she's talked about the journey that the leadership at Unilag are very keen that you go on in terms of internationalization. And one thing I'd like to say to start off is that our journey at the University of Dundee is relatively recent. Like many universities, we have had lots of international engagement from the moment of our creation, but it wasn't really structured and coordinated in a very, very coherent way until the last decade. And what I want to talk about today is this, to show you the steps that we've put in place to create more of a framework to do internationalization better. And at any stage, if you've got questions, just stick up your hand. I'm very happy to answer questions or have a debate as we go. I really want this to be as interactive a session as possible. So don't sort of hold back to the end. Just stick up your hand. Anything you want more information on, to discuss with me, discuss with the panel, please do so. There. No. Okay. Can I just use this? You declick that. You declick that button. Don't no. Click that button. Great. Right. Hopefully that's the final technical hiccup. So before we get into nitty gritty, a little bit about how I, as an academic, got involved in internationalization. Well, my background is, I'm a lawyer. My background is in an international aspect of law, conflict of laws. And because of that work, so much of my research was always international. I was traveling regularly. So I was very receptive to engaging and working in the international domain. So I've been a professor of law at Dundee since 2006. And quite early on in my career, I began to have an international portfolio within Dundee Law School from 2008 to 2015. That was still at a stage when most academic units at the university were just sort of doing their own thing in terms of internationalization. It wasn't really coordinated in a very structured way centrally or even within disciplines. It just depended on the individual academic as to what she or he really wanted to do. So I had a bit of a role in recruitment, trying to promote our programs, and I had a sort of a role as well in terms of trying to establish partnerships. But it was very much a sort of a, as you might say these days, a bit of a side hustle. Most of my focus was on my research and private international law, doing some teaching, and then a little bit of internationalization. And there were other colleagues scattered throughout the university who also did sort of internationalization, but we all did our own thing. And that essentially what was quite problematic. We weren't really achieving our full potential as an institution. Things weren't coordinated. So then sort of new appointments were made. And then from 2015, there was a sort of restructuring of the university. We moved from faculties into colleges. There were sort of new unit subdivisions created. And as part of this step, within sort of the schools, new structures were created to deal specifically with internationalization. So each school created a senior academic who would work under the dean of that school to focus on international activities. So from 2017 to 2022, I was the Associate Dean International for the School of Social Sciences that brought together 6 disciplines, including law. Then after the creation of those senior academic roles within the schools of the university, it was decided that we should also have a regional focus to our international engagement. So from 2018, the university decided to create posts for senior academics to lead on international activity within different regions of the world, regions of particular importance for the University of Dundee. So from 2018, I have been the academic regional lead for Africa. We also have academic regional leads for South Asia, for the Americas, for East Asia, for Europe, and for the Middle East. So those are senior academics who have a sort of an overview of all university activity in those regions. So what I'm going to do now is to say more about those 2 roles and how the university takes steps to implement them. Going to need help how to move from slide to slide. Oh, there we go. So, as I said, I'm going to move from school or faculty level to explaining centrally. So last night, when I was putting these slides together, I was sort of mining my phone for sort of relevant photographs dealing with international type activity. You're going to see lots of different ones, sort of formal photographs, informal photographs. This is one of my favorite ones. I'm going to come to this issue shortly, but as both a sort of school lead on international activity and indeed as a sort of a central regional lead, one of the sort of fun things that we do for our students is organize sort of trips to help them discover Scotland, because we know many of the most beautiful parts of Scotland are not accessible by public transport, so it's difficult for overseas students to get to see them. So we do put on lots of trips, and this is a picture from a trip we did last year to show sort of some of the highlands to some of our students. Right, so turning first to sort of the overarching structure that we have now, because we've had further changes in structure. Universities love to sort of keep changing their organization. All universities follow the same pattern. So at the very top of our international engagement, we have our vice principal international. So we had the principal came to join us this week, Professor Gillespie. So he has a series of vice principals. So we have a vice principal international and an assistant vice principal international. And then across the 8 schools that we have at the university, we have the associate dean. Now we have a slight change in terms of nomenclature. So it's not just the associate dean international, it's now the associate dean student recruitment and international. Depending on the size of the school, there may be an academic, a senior academic who leads as a portfolio dealing with partnerships. And then they are supported by professional service colleagues. So every school will have an international admin lead and they'll have support staff to support them further. So you can see that you need to have this structure. We found that we needed to have this proper structure and organization really to achieve our full objectives. Going back to before when I began, it was completely ad hoc. It was just the academic working by him or herself, maybe getting a bit of admin support when they could. There was no specific budget. And that sort of held us back. Now, in terms of the administrative structures within each school, so the Associate Dean, Student Recruitment International, will convene a committee that meets monthly, dealing with recruitment and international matters. That brings together representatives from across the school. So the school that I'm in at the minute, the School of Humanities, Social Sciences and Law, has a very wide range of disciplines. So each of those disciplines will in turn have someone responsible for international activity for that subgrouping. The meeting also draws in representatives from across professional services at the university. So internationalization is probably the area where academics have to engage more with professional service colleagues, the broadest range of professional service colleagues, to help achieve objectives fully. So at these meetings, we bring together colleagues from the global partnerships team, colleagues who are involved as their full-time role to promote our courses and to recruit students, colleagues from marketing, student support, and engagement. Engagement is very, very important office that we have. So obviously when recruitment is very important to all UK universities, and when people are deciding which university to go to, they will be applying to lots of different institutions, and they may get offers from lots of different institutions, and they always want to find out more. Is this university really the right fit for me? So we've got a team of people that help them on the journey to explain what they can expect, and then once they do commit to come to the university, to help them actually get here as well. And they have a very important role in the international domain. So the school will also have a budget to promote international activity. The associate dean has to put in place the strategy for the school in terms of recruitment, in terms of partnership engagement, and then they have to determine how they spend that budget to help achieve those objectives. So it's clear, it's transparent, and that has helped us achieve our goals more effectively. This photo, as you can see, a group of Nigerian students. This is an event that we put on at the waterfront at Dundee, and they're beside the new Victoria and Albert Museum on the RRS Discovery, the ship that Professor Ian mentioned in his talk. Welcome. So now more specifically on the role of Associate Dean dealing with international activities. I like that photograph. I'm not sure if it's reflecting the size of the role of the Associate Dean International, or in fact, there's sort of, we need to pray when we have this role, because it is a really, really challenging one, which involves balancing lots and lots of different objectives and engaging with so many different stakeholders across the university and externally. So here's the breakdown of the main issues that the Associate Dean, who's responsible for international activities, has to manage within his or her schools. So they determine and set the school recruitment strategy, looking at recruitment of students from Scotland, students from across the UK, students internationally. They also are the person who determines the school's partnership development activity, which new partnerships should be entered into. Why should those partnerships be entered into? How should current partnerships be managed? Because often a piece of learning that we had was that often academics, myself included, we were very keen on creating new partnerships. It's great to establish those contacts to sort of help develop our research, to put in place initiatives for the benefit of our students. But it's very easy to underestimate the amount of work a partnership will require after it is concluded, because there's no point in entering into a partnership, and Professor Ibrahim will concur with this. There's no point having a partnership if you just let it sit on a shelf and gather dust. For a partnership to be vibrant, to be active, it requires lots and lots of work. It requires mutual visits, it requires regular meetings online, and all that has to be factored into the strategy behind it as well. Then another key element of the Associate Dean is in terms of student support and engagement. Marketing is also within the portfolio of that dean, and alumni engagement. So I'm going to say a little bit more about each of those. That nice photo is from our graduation last year, and that was our top LLB student from 2023, who is from Lagos. That was Zainab. So, student recruitment. Big focus of any international associate dean in any university across the UK. This has lots and lots of different elements. And lots of time for any academic who's involved in international activity is spent on looking at the recruitment picture. All universities need to recruit students, and we want to welcome students from all across the world to come and undertake our program. So there's lots of time spent on analysis, from where in the world, from where domestically will students be interested in coming to our university? What will they be interested in studying? Which sort of type of programs do they want to do? So understanding our market is very important. Engaging with third parties who undertake research, that's another key thing. And using that research is also incredibly important. So any academic involved in the recruitment aspect of international activity will also have a key role to input to colleagues engaged in program development to ensure that the programs that we establish are ones that are suitably attractive. What we have found in our journey is that whenever new colleagues joined the university, they're often very keen to create courses. They may have been fantastic courses, but they may not necessarily have been courses which would have attracted significant students to come and study them. And so that was the process of understanding that, it took a bit of a while, lots of education for academics across the university. So to give my example, my real area, my real love is in international family law, questions of international divorce, international child custody, inter-country adoption. And I created a course on that, and I was very keen to create a whole master's program on that. And I did manage to get some very well qualified students to do it, but my classes were always pretty small. So that really wasn't very cost effective for the university. We can't have lots and lots of very small courses or very small modules. So we had to learn collectively that it was important to put together a portfolio of programs and modules that would wash their face, that would actually attract a sufficient number of students to be cost effective for the university to invest in. So that is another key element for the associate dean engaged in international activity. That person also has to spend a lot of their time engaging with professional service colleagues to make sure that all of our courses are marketed properly. They have that they are understood in the wider world, and often that requires lots of us distilling down what a course actually entails and why people might want to come and see it. We have also spent quite a bit of time trying to increase employability skills within our courses. So some of our courses have internships attached, and that again is the responsibility of the Associate Dean International to help achieve that. Then finally, the other key task of the academic responsible for international responsible for recruitment is to motivate academics across his or her school to promote their courses, because it can't just be down to 8 people across the whole university. It can't just survive on 8 academics who will tell the world about how good our programs actually are. We need everybody to engage with this. Now, it's not the full-time role of everybody, but when people are going to conferences, for example, making sure that they have the right materials that showcase our programs, and people can understand what they would expect if they come to the University of Dundee is very important. And we've been pretty successful in that. People know the importance of proper messaging and being able to showcase what we do globally. I'll pause there. Any questions so far? Good. Khalid.
Yeah, thank you. I saw one of the slides where you mentioned alumni engagement. I think we'll need more elaboration on how the alumni engagement will interpose with the international relations of the university. Thank you.
Great. We're going to come to that in just a few minutes' time. I've got a lot to say about that.
My question is on the duration of the courses. Does it depend on the school offering the course, and how long does each course last? You know, since you're recruiting students from international students, how long, and then what would they use it for?
So in terms of length, our master's programs are all 1 year. That's pretty standard across the UK. In terms of our undergraduate programs, a bit of a difference between Scotland and England. In Scotland, children spend 6 years at university, 6 years at high school, and then most degree courses are then 4 years long. But it is possible for people to gain direct entry into the second year of the program. And in terms of PhDs, traditionally it's been 3 years, but we are moving more towards a 4-year model of PhDs at the university. Yes, yes. There's some variations. Architecture is 5 years. Medicine, of course, is 5 years, as is dentistry. So engineering, okay, yeah. So law, we teach English law, so it is 3 years. It's a sort of a shorter exception. Yeah. Any other questions people would like to ask?
Oh, thank you very much for that wonderful speech on
We're not finished. There's more to come.
on internationalization. I know there are a lot of things University of Lagos can learn from University of Dundee. I know the focus of the presentation more lies on student recruitment. And but we know we're talking about internationalization. We are looking at maybe project developments. And when we want to do that, there might be need for us to see how, if like University of Lagos, for instance, want to collaborate with Dundee's, then there might be mobility of maybe students and staff between both universities. So I want to ask if you have experience of beyond student recruitment, like project development, and maybe can involve developing something both at Dundee's and also at the partnering universities. And what are the challenges that you have encountered in maybe funding that ideas, and then student and staff traveling between across borders. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We're on a journey here. We're going to be coming to that just as after we deal with alumni. So I'm explaining what happens at a school level. Then I'm going to be explaining what happens in terms of the academics who have the central role in terms of having a regional responsibility. And it's when we come to that stage, we're going to see more of a sort of strategic university-wide engagement, focusing on projects such as that and thinking about social purpose as well as recruitment. Okay, just a few minutes and we'll get to that. Super, super important. Yes.
Visual student, apart from the recruitment, what about employability? You mentioned it. We have a lot of challenge on employability of our students, especially in this country. What can you advise us to do, especially looking at some courses? There are some courses people will do. You say, no, there's no job. What area of focus can you advise us to look at? Then secondly, in terms of staff and student exchange, she mentioned duration. I think you should look at if there's going to be exchange for a short period, what's the duration and how does it work?
Yeah, thanks very much. In terms of employability, super, super important. That's something I'm going to be dealing with when we touch on alumni, because that is an area that we have been working to build in a sustainable way, employability skills for our students. So that was recruitment, which is a very, very important role for at a school level for the Associate Dean dealing with internationalization. Also, partnership development. There's a nice photo, a memento from the first Unilag International Week, which was in Cities of the Future. Now, at school level, schools are responsible for determining which partnerships they want to have. Suggestions can be made centrally, but the position that we adopt at the university is that if a partnership, a strategic partnership, is to be viable, it really requires academics on the ground to be behind it. So a principal, a vice principal can't just say, we want to have a partnership with this university because they are not going to be doing all the partnership management. They are not going to put the agreement in place. We need academics who are committed to the partnership, who want to sort of build up the understanding, the trust, the knowledge of their partners and work together to create something viable, whether it's in respect of research, whether it's in respect of social purpose, whether it's in respect of education. So what we have learned and what we still have to educate our colleagues about is a viable partnership requires a cohort of committed academics who really want to work with that other institution. Now, often you'll have one academic who is the lead, but it is so important to make sure that a partnership does not just depend on one single academic, because what happens if that academic leaves or is ill, that can completely undermine the partnership. And we have had experience of that. So even if there's one academic who's at the forefront of building the connection, it is really important from an early stage to make sure there are a team of people who get to understand the partner, who get to work, get exposure to that other university to make sure that there is succession planning if something happens to the main person. So the Associate Dean will identify which partnerships the school should have. It's very important to make sure there are not too many, because it is impossible to manage a massive number of partnerships effectively. So there will be an academic, usually within an individual discipline, who will be the key contact person for the individual university partnership, with an assistant as well. And just to touch on the issue of management, I know I mentioned it before, but we should never underestimate the amount of time it takes to maintain an effective partnership. Professor Ismail, as he knows, I'm regularly here in Nigeria, and Professor Ismail is a regular visit to Dundee, and that's part of the reason that our collaboration has been so successful. We've gotten to know each other, we've overcome challenges. We can just pick up a phone, send a WhatsApp message to communicate if there's anything to overcome, if there's a question to be answered. With no other university do I have such a strong relationship. And with no other university are problems able to be overcome so easily. And I very much hope that that's now going to enable us to achieve great things, starting with law and hopefully moving into cell biology and life sciences as well. So it seems obvious, but don't underestimate the amount of time that effective management actually will require. And that is a key thing for the Associate Dean to do, to make sure that any new partnership can be properly managed. So I've mentioned before, this is sort of the nice part of the job for the Associate Dean, reaching out to applicants when they want to find out more about their courses, and then engaging with students from overseas once they've arrived. So I'm a regular, I have regular sort of meetings with the international students. So I had when I had that role, to get to understand them, to see how they were settling in, and then to sort of put on trips with my colleagues, with other academics, and with the international admin lead. So some fun things, taking them away from their studies, and they were hugely successful and really popular, and great, a really enjoyable way to spend a Saturday or a Sunday. Then we have marketing. So you might think it's strange, that's surely it's a professional service duty. It is. We've got a marketing department, just as you have a marketing department here at the University of Lagos. But it is also something that academics increasingly get involved in, so that people know about our university, they know about our courses, and they know what they can expect once they come to us. So I've personally been involved in making some videos for the university. So now we come to alumni engagement. This is something we've always done, but we are really seeking to do it in a much more strategic way. To some degree within schools, but very much so when it comes to the regional leads who have a responsibility for a certain part of the world. So whenever we go overseas, we connect to our alumni. We want to catch up. Obviously, it's great to have a sort of a social occasion, but what we're really trying to do is to engage with them in a much more strategic way. So you've mentioned, colleague here, about employability. So two different sort of alumni engagement activities that I've been involved in over the course of the last 18 months. The first is within my own discipline of law. I've set up a LLB alumni mentoring program. And we discovered that well, students, when you study law at a British university, almost from the moment you arrive and begin your studies, you have to start preparing for your future legal career. It is very, very structured. So from the second year, students are applying for vacation placements. There are varying length between 1 week, sometimes up to a month, that a student will apply for a competitive place to work in a law firm. They gain insights into the life of the firm. But for firms, it's not because they need sort of some summer assistance, some vacation assistance. It is really a mechanism for them to determine, is this person going to be a potential future member of our firm? Would we want him to become an actual trainee and then a future colleague? So it has become a very structured way for law firms to determine who they want to hire. So it has become very, very challenging. It is now of crucial importance for any law student at a British law school to do. So we decided to work with our alumni working in law firms as solicitors or chambers as barristers to gain their insights, their expertise, so our students could work on what are the extra steps I need to take to put myself in the best position to be successful in getting these vacation schemes, and to increase my awareness of employability issues. Because obviously, as we know, there's a difference between what you learn in the classroom and how you will present yourself in writing in an academic essay, and in the way you need to do when it comes to applying for a career. So in working with our alumni in the legal field, we had the pilot last year, that was incredibly successful. And that has helped increase the commercial and employability awareness of our students. Now, seeing that success in my Africa role, we are now trying to create something similar, working with our alumni chapter here in Nigeria. So Dundee has got a very, very extensive alumni chapter in Nigeria, including several colleagues on faculty here at the University of Lagos. So we are creating a new alumni mentoring program from amongst our Nigerian alumni, and they will mentor a group of African students who are currently studying at the University of Dundee. So again, we're going to do a pilot to start. We're going to have 20 mentors and 20 mentees. It's going to be not focused on an individual discipline, but focused on employability skills, so that those current students who are undertaking masters or on the verge of completing their undergraduate degree will benefit from the insights, from the experiences, from the commercial awareness of successful alumni. And we think that that's, again, a great way of not just reconnecting and actually working with our alumni, but helping our own students and connecting those two great parts of the Dundee family together. did you want to ask any questions on that? I know. Please.
Beyond the practice that the students actually go there to see, or the employers also assess the students. And then in terms of the employers assessing the students or the trainees to be, hopefully, do you also request feedback, or do you intend to request feedback to see whether the students who have been trained for 1-2 years will have the potential to meet the employability demand, of the sector in which they might end up getting into? And while I know you may be more experienced in law, I'm just wondering whether you also have such for other programs. I'm from life sciences. I would be very curious. We do something like that in my department, but I'm just curious if we can have that both for the students, but also for the staff to go and then come back with what are the skills now that the employers are looking for in our students that we can inculcate in our curriculum, to actually have all-round and job-ready students when they graduate. Yes.
Good. That's a fantastic question. I think we've not sort of set up a mentoring program. Well, we do have mentoring programs for staff, but in terms of mentoring from alumni, we've not formalized that, but we do have, including in life sciences, regular engagement between staff and alumni who work in the commercial sector. And there is lots of exchange of information, but it's done on a more ad hoc basis, not mentoring as such. In terms of feedback, of course, and review, very, very important. In the mentoring program that we've done in law, we did sort of interview our students, the mentees, and we did get written feedback from the mentors as well. And we've taken that on board to refine the process for this year, because it's, as we all know, it's so important to learn from our past experiences. We wanted it to be a pilot, and we're making it bigger this year with more mentors, more mentees, and making some tweaks to the way in which we organize things to make sure it's the best experience for everybody. Yep.
Say that, maybe we just, because we have some time allocated for questions, so that you can just finish the presentation. Then we take the questions after that, because we are time challenged, and I know we have some other things. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, so if I just go through the rest. So that was the role of the academic who works at the school level in terms of international activity. And I got some slides and want to say a little bit about the additional role that we have at the university. That is the appointment of regional leads. So senior academics who are responsible for international activity, not within a school, but for the whole university within a specific region. So since 2018, I've been the academic who's had that brief in respect of Africa. And I'll just say a little bit about that. The main difference, obviously, is that it's university-wide. It's not focused on a specific discipline, but also it is more strategic, and there is more focus on bigger projects. So in terms of projects that I'll just highlight, one of the key things that I've been working on this year is with the principal and other senior colleagues in developing our African Doctoral Fellowship Scheme. This is something we're very, very proud of. We have created a fund to enable 5 academics from partner institutions to come and undertake a doctorate at the university. And it's fully funded for fees and stipend for 4 years. And we're running this every perspective of Africa, that person can make links with other relevant people who might want to know. That is not always easy because, as you'll be aware, universities are huge places, and many academics will be doing work that their colleagues, maybe even somebody down the corridor, is not fully aware of. So I thought I knew all the alumni of the University of Dundee on the Unilag faculty, but somebody new came up to one of our meetings on Tuesday and introduced himself. So he had actually studied at Dundee, been in the same building as me just before I joined the university. And it was great to meet Dr. Alex in psychology. So these are the key roles of the academic regional lead. So an ambassadorial role, sort of deputizing for the Vice Principal International in region, recruitment, partnership management, research links, engagement of stakeholders, student engagement, and alumni engagement. This was an African student's trip to one of our local castles. We did actually more trips during COVID because that was obviously such a challenging time. The international leads the regional leads had a really key role in making sure that the students who were on campus, that they were properly cared for. So in terms of recruitment, I won't say much about that. Whilst the school leads have a recruitment role, the regional leads also have a recruitment role, but looking at sort of bigger projects. So one of the key things that I've done is to create a sort of mooting competition for high school pupils. And that sort of introduces students from across Africa into the study of law and gives them a flavor of what the education of the University of Dundee is like. And again, we bring academics over to our region to help them sort of spread the word about our courses, about our education. So in terms of another key role that we have in our regional role is engaging with our student societies. And there is a picture of last year's annual meeting of the Nigerian Society. You can see the principal was there. The students have found this very, very helpful, that we have many, many students from Nigeria at the University of Dundee, and they know that they can, through their student society, always reach out to me if there's an issue that is of concern that they want help with. And having that regional link has been very, very successful. So engaging with key stakeholders is another sort of important aspect of the role of the regional lead. So here in Africa, I engage with funding bodies. This is a meeting of a visit from the TET Fund to the University of Dundee last year to meet the TET-funded PhD scholars at the university. So the regional lead will play the key role in engaging with stakeholders like that. And then partnership management. So while schools engage in partnership activities, making sure the partnerships exist, the regional lead has a more strategic overview of all the partnerships in that region to make sure that there's a proper balance and to give advice to individual schools as to what they should be achieving. There's a visit last year with our Vice Principal International to the law faculty ahead of our negotiations on our LLM program. And then alumni engagement. I've already covered this, but at a regional level, the academic who's responsible for the region is his or her responsibility is to have a more strategic overview of how we should connect with alumni in our region. And as I've said, the way in which we're doing this in Africa is having this mentorship program. So that's a flavor for what we've done to try and create a more coherent, effective structure for academics to engage in international activity. 10 years ago, we didn't have it. As I said at the beginning, all very ad hoc. But we are still learning, we're still refining what we do, but certainly we have made Dundee a far more international institution over the last decade. We have more international students, we have more effective international partnerships, and we are now beginning to engage in a much more effective way with our overseas alumni, and not just to meet them when we're overseas, but to work with them in a strategic fashion. So thanks very much. Now happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we take questions, what we can take from Peter's presentation is that internationalization is comprehensive. So it involves almost everything that we do at the university. The other thing is there's a personal touch to it. You know, we talk about some of the collaborations that we have with South Africa, Pretoria, and others. Anytime I'm in the UK, and when I go to the UK, I go to Leicester, to other places, I make sure that as long as Peter is in Dundee, I must visit him. So I travel to Dundee to visit Peter. And we have tried all the nice restaurants in Dundee, and I know we have, yes. So it's about that. And anytime we need something, you know, we always then the go-to university. We've had the experiences in the past. We've had exchange study tour for our professional services, non-teaching staff, people in Bursary. We've taken them to Dundee for 1 week. They organized training for them, those in registry as well. They've been there. We've had the management, the vice chancellor, DVCs, and they've been there at Dundee. So it's very, very comprehensive. And when we had the Nelson Mandela celebration in July, and we had the 3-minute thesis presentation, and we are looking for those that will give us awards for the winners. You know, the first university we had to talk to was Dundee, and I spoke to Peter, and he said, okay, Dundee will give whoever came first opportunity to travel to Dundee University for 1 week on exchange program. And they've been actually very faithful to that. So we had a competition in July, and the person that came first, he will be going to Dundee for 1 week as a research PhD student at the University of Lagos, will be going to Dundee for 1 week. And the expenses is being borne by University of Dundee. So thank you very much for that. As well as several others. That is the way to go. That personal touch is very important. The people we are working with, you know, let's add those personal touch, and then we can actually get a lot of mileage from those collaborations. So let's take questions. If we have questions, okay. Okay, so yeah, I think it's better because of the time, and it's got, so we will take the questions together. So please note your questions, and then we just dive straight to the second presentation by Professor Joe Angouri, University of Warwick.
Thank you. Just let us sort out technology. Hopefully it won't take long because now we've done it. So just talk amongst yourselves for 1 minute so that we just...
That first slide is one of the capacity building trips. Professor Adams, Professor McNamara, and Dr. Baker for COVID.
Right, no, let's see what. Yeah. We need is that me? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You don't need to reach the end, you can choose how to go on Zoom.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah, I'll share from Zoom directly. Yeah, that's okay. Let me see. I can do that. So, it's not sharing. I cannot stop sharing while the other participant is sharing. Stop. Yeah. So think we go here, right? Yeah. Are we sharing now?
Hello?
Yeah, okay. Okay. Shall I start? No. Computer says no. I thought we were almost there. But as we are sorting technology, what I would like to do is take the framework, some of which Peter sketched, which apply across what we see in the sector, definitely in the UK, and show you some examples of how we're working with some specific programs that try to bring some of the components that enable us to scale up the opportunity to give our students the space to learn with their peers and to combine different modalities. And what is one very important part that I would like us to have in this conversation is the need for diversity of designs in order to be able to meet the needs of the different disciplines, the different programs, and the different students we have. So there is no one scheme or structure that would enable us to internationalize. And hopefully I will be able to show you some examples soon. Sorry, are we sharing the slides from here? Yeah. But these are not the slides from my screen, right? Yeah. Sorry, these are not the slides on my screen, right? This is a different version of the slides you have.
We have a copy of it here, so.
Yeah, no, but these are not the same versions. it doesn't matter, but you're not showing this version here, right? You're showing the one you had. Okay, so you're sharing a different version to this.
Okay, so
Good.
you want.
Yes, that's actually. Yeah. No, no, I don't.
So can you go manual, maybe by using your hand to.
Yeah, yeah, of course, that's not a problem. No, it's not a problem. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, yeah,
Just check.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know which one is now, but I think that's the one. I don't know. This is the, I don't know what we're doing. Hang on, if I share. I'm sharing that. Hang on. Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. That will do. That's fine. That's fine. We can go with this one. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We can go with this one. Yeah, it's all good. All good. We can go with this one. It's fine. Okay, so I can change slides from here, no? Perfect. So it works, right? Okay. All right. I think we have a solution. Let's not test it any further. It works. All right. Okay. Okay. I think we all had enough training during COVID to be very comfortable with technology and creative and to give solutions. So I think that's a part of our collective digital literacy. So thank you. It's great to be part of this conversation and part of this journey. And what I would like to do is to share some experiences that we have. I'm Angouri, I'm from the University of Warwick, and I'm the Academic Director for Education and Internationalization. So I'm going to show you part of how my journey continues the story that we actually had from Peter's journey, but also what I think is a very much of a shared journey in the sector. And what we are currently experiencing is a moment where there is a lot of emphasis on internationalization as a priority for policymakers, and particularly in relation to transnational educational collaboration. So we have an opportunity to build on all the good work that is actually we have been piloting or successfully embedded in our departments and provision, and see how we can scale up opportunity. Now, this for me is very important. And this is where I will share how at the University of Warwick, we are making a very much of a focus and a commitment. Internationalization is part of the characteristics of the distinctive features of Warwick education. So we have internationalization, interdisciplinarity, and student research as core aspects of what we want all our students to have. And that is something that presupposes scalability of opportunity. And what we have seen in the sector is programs that work very well, but they are for a very small number of students, 5, 10, 20, and so on. I have 30,000, you have 60,000, and so on. So if we're actually really interested in internationalization, we really need to think how we need to combine in order to provide opportunity and in order to really work with the societies around us. And this is our region, this is our national context, this is our international context, to really leverage the power of our university experience. So that to me is really an important part of this conversation. And what we have been doing is to really build on all the things that we do well to actually enhance and further sort of add value to the experience of all our students as much as possible. Warwick is a very international university. As already said, internationalization is one of the core key drivers of what we associate with quality of education, but we're also a very international institution. We're very proud of that. It's very much part of our DNA. We have a number of strategic partners, alliances,
with a number of institutions around the world, and you actually see some figures that give you a bit of a flavor of what the daily reality is like. It's really vibrant, it's really buzzy, and so on. So what we're very interested in is to actually move from the fact that we are very committed, and internationalization is very much part of a strategic priority, but it's also part of who we are. It's part of our identity. And we want to push this further. And we brought things together to connect the international, both in all aspects of the activities. So that's both the research, but it's also teaching and learning and the impact work of the university. What you actually see here is when I started my role, which was around the same time I took on my portfolio 2019, and Professor Ibrahim was asking me to talk about my own journey. I started as Director of Internationalization. I think it was about a couple of weeks before COVID was officially declared. Now, this is a great time to start as internationalization, right? And my remit was to design our internationalization of education strategy, really connecting all these ingredients that we already had at Warwick. So one may think, oh my God, terrible. But actually, instead of taking a deficit approach, what happened when we all became physically immobile and digitally mobile was to really see what happens when we diversify modalities and designs, and how we can really create a diverse portfolio of learning activities that enable us to actually really embed into existing structures, so courses, programs, exchange, opportunities and schemes, the ability to give more dynamic ways for students to work with each other, for us to work with colleagues from around the world, for our researchers to actually do research in new and innovative ways, and so on. So it has been actually a catalyst, despite, of course, all the negative impact. And what we also experienced was how important the social aspect of learning is. So how transformational it is when we bring our students together. But we've also experienced how much we can do if we actually, instead of having an understanding mobility or exchange as a linear and one type of activity only that can happen in the sort of cycle of a student's degree only in sort of one window, if we actually expand that and we think, how can we actually create pathways to global learning, to international learning, both in short and long term, both in online and face-to-face, and start diversifying. So what we did, and I'm sure we'll try and fast track a bit so we have time for a discussion, was to bring together the strategic commitment and the university strategy and the overall education strategy with the programming and find ways to really supercharge all these core ingredients and build on the experiences of what we had in the pandemic. What you see here was very much the framing of internationalization, and what we are keen and what we're doing is to move, to transcend, to find ways to transcend disciplinary borders, to embed opportunities in curricular and co-curricular offering, and to find ways to actually support all our students to work in meaningful encounters across the university communities and with their peers from other institutions. And integration and working meaningfully, oops, if I trip over, that's actually really fundamental. So when I took on my role, I started working with groups of students in focus groups, design workshops, and so on. And what the students were actually asking was to work in meaningful ways with their peers across the curriculum, either across their curriculum. And we have some areas of our provision where collaboration is more established, so PhD training, PhD exchange, and so on. What I'm really interested in is what's happening in the undergraduate classroom. How can we actually have vertical and horizontal opportunities so that we can actually really bring structural connections and then start creating the conditions to empower our students, to inspire them, to give them opportunities to really see the global relevance of their local experience, apply their disciplinary training into interdisciplinary contexts, and do this in multiple ways so then we can actually make the best use of resource. Because if we only have one design, which is the long study abroad or the year abroad and so on, there are very specific funding requirements if we are to think of achieving targets. Now, the targets that the current policymakers have put on the table are really ambitious. So if we look into the European Commission, which is the point of reference that I work with, and also the national targets around the world, the targets are really far from the experience, the lived reality of the sector. So in Europe, the European Commission has promoted the creation of European university alliances as ways to build on the Erasmus and Bologna legacy for universities to deepen collaboration. And the ambition within these European university alliances, and if you're interested, I can tell you more, or you can Google Utopia and Warwick, and you will find one European alliance that we are founding members of. The target is to have 50% mobility into that. 50% mobility to give 50% of students some form of global learning. This is huge. And within the Bologna context, the mobility target is 20%. This is also ginormous. The lived experience of the sector currently, from what we find, does not exceed, in the best possible case scenario, 9%. It is very common to be under 3%, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about giving opportunity, to me, scalability is fundamental. And in order to achieve that, we need diversity of designs and programs, and to also translate all the good practice that we have into what we can do. And we know that this is really important, because what I see, and I'm sure that's your experience, and I'm sure that you have that through the really great programs we discussed, the one with Pretoria and the ones that Peter was touching upon, is that those who participate, they're really inspired. They find those life-changing and transformational. And these are just some quotes that I haven't, the feedback is overwhelmingly positive in terms of what the students do. So I feel a very strong mandate from the students to really think, how can we provide pathways to opportunity? And that's really how I actually see my role. Okay, so in order to achieve this, we need a strategy, and that's what we're doing at Warwick. And I will share some very quickly some programs. You will find all of that is online, and I can provide details in terms of how various schemes connect with this, the priorities of the strategy and the ambition for all our students to experience the international, interdisciplinary character of education. And what is actually important here is to think internationalization not in a static linear way, associated with one time, one experience, only with one particular place or region and so on, but as an ongoing process. And what you actually see here, what I try to actually show here, is how we try to build from the different metrics that are associated with internationalization, and our ways to actually capture the pulse or the landscape of an institution, as you will have seen, which is international students, international staff, international research, exchange. Those are key components of internationalization. And as Peter was talking through the different experiences, he was actually referring to all those metrics directly or indirectly. Now, these are core ingredients of any strategy, and internationalization it needs to be an intentional process. We cannot achieve connecting and scaling up without making choices, without creating a menu of activities, which then would allow us to channel the resource we have and to provide the support that is necessary. And I can not agree more than we actually really need to think how we bring together academic, professional services, partner institutions to build relationships, because what we're doing here is the building of a relationship that would enable us to actually scale up. So we take those ingredients, and what we're very interested is to integrate and embed global learning, and embedding means across all departments. So how all our departments see relevance to what we do, to me, is fundamental. And what I'm sure you've all experienced is that when we establish new partnerships, in some parts of our institution, there is a lot that is already an organic point of synergy, but in some other parts of the institution, there is no relationship. There hasn't been an opportunity to build those connections. And the participation and making partnerships work vertically and horizontally, to me, is a priority. And that's how we actually also can scale up and provide more pathways to the students. These are some of our strategic priorities. I don't have a lot of time to go through it, but basically cover the whole spectrum. And I think they're more or less connect with what you will find as strategic priorities in the sector. So what I did when I took on my role was a very detailed and thorough analysis of strategies, and you will find that there is a lot of convergence. So the road and the journey you're on is very much of a shared journey. So it's so important that we come together, we share what works in your programs, departments, experiences, and we see how we can build this good practice to actually provide more opportunity. Okay, so I've already mentioned some programs that I want to touch upon, and you find 4 on this slide. I'm going to zoom through them, and that is not so much to talk about each of any of those individual programs in too much detail, but what I wanted to share is the need to have a portfolio of activities that would be connected with the students' lived experience, and they would be centrally supported to grow. Because otherwise we actually have a whole range of small type of activities, bijou type, that may work really well, but either it's not possible to scale up, or they require a lot of effort that otherwise would be able to actually provide more opportunity in areas where we actually have more investment already, or prioritization, or whatever, depending on the discipline. And that is really an important part in terms of having a strategy and an implementation plan that enables us to actually identify where we want to prioritize energy, activities, and focus. And that's really fundamental, because that's how we go from having a strategy to really making an impact to the daily reality of students, because otherwise we need to connect those dots. Otherwise, if we don't, the strategy remains a high-level empty document with some nice language where we say, let's imagine that all our students have X or Y. Yeah, we can imagine it's not going to change anybody's life. Or we start spreading ourselves and the resource we have, which globally is shrinking. The unit of resource we have is shrinking globally across everything and anything of the bijou type program to something that could actually be offered to 3,000 students. And we really need to have a systematic process of prioritization to decide, to make choices. That doesn't mean that we don't decide to fund or to support a bijou type program, but it needs to be systematic, in my view, because we don't have the capacity and the capability to be able to actually spread if we are serious about scalability. And to me, this is where I really see a priority. So we have various programs here, and these are connect with the characteristics that are very important for the University of Warwick. And the thinking, and what I'm hoping is that the thinking and the structure also applies to work that is relevant to you and the work that you are intending to develop further. Now, some of those programs, the other reason why they're on the slide is because it is a mix of curricular and co-curricular activities. So when we talk about internationalization, we talk about the quality of the experience, but that's, we need to articulate more. And to me, when we talk about the quality of the experience, we need to make connections between the curriculum experience of the student and what they can do in the time around the curriculum, which at the moment is not optimal in the sector. We have the curricular often very separate to the co-curricular and the extracurricular. And because the curriculum is difficult to shift and change, we often put a lot of great work in the co-curricular and the extracurricular without, however, making a way for the students to bring in closer to their experience that they have in the class. So you have the first program, the Warwick International Intensive Study Program, is a structure and a suite of modules. Module at Warwick is the credit-bearing unit that makes a course. Okay, so the wider part. And this enables Warwick departments to offer part of their own home curriculum for credit in intensive formats for our own students and students for our strategic partners. So that means that we have 12, 13 of those modules that are offered, and our students study, and you will find this online, for their own curriculum with students from Monash. We have a strategic partnership with Monash. We celebrated 11 years, so it was one of the first in the sector. With the European University Alliance, we're members of, with our North American strategic partners. We have students from Stellenbosch, who is one of our strategic partners. We have students from the University of New South Wales in Sydney, and so forth. So this is really important because those students also take those for credit, and our students take it for credit. And that is actually short term, which creates opportunity for thinking of resource in a different way, and does not exclude participation to other type of activities. And it also means that students can take one of those modules during the undergraduate years, and then another module in their postgraduate years, depending on what they're studying and so on. The program is growing. At the same time, you have other programs on this slide that actually meet the characteristic of the student enhancing and empowering student research. And we have a scheme on a very established scheme, which we call Undergraduate Research Support Scheme, URSS, and also opportunities for the students to carry out their own independent research, again, in a short period over the summer, with a bursary system supporting them, and through that to actually really have the ability to design and to work on questions that are of interest to them. And then around that, there is a suite of other activities that enable them to further enhance and deepen, to present their work and also publish their work. And we have a very established conference for undergraduate research and also journal for undergraduate research. So there is a very important part of activities there that students can connect. Is in the co-curricular space, but it is a very strong part of the student learning experience, and students can also do this work in another one of our international partners. It doesn't need to be one of our strategic partners. So students can actually carry out the work in one of our partner institutions. And the last is a virtual program, which is a virtual internship program. It's called Teamwork. It's a 4-week one, and it is one that actually enables students to work on specific questions and challenges provided by organizations. It is a vibrant community of thousands of students. It is a really successful program that is growing, and again connects very much what the student does in the class with what the student can do afterwards. Now, the design of those programs together, in my view, is what is really interesting for our conversation. So we started by hearing the sort of the general frame, some activities, some of the work you do in law, some of the good work that is actually happening with PhD training. We can add onto that other designs and programming that does not have so much of the visibility of the study abroad or the PhD exchange, but actually can enable us to bring a lot of global learning into the class in a way that, of course, depending on the university's priorities, can also help deepening partnerships, because for all of those are part of working with partners, deepening and strengthening the partnership across. So that means that all of those, although what I have is associated with undergraduate and some masters, PhD, postgraduate taught provision, feed into developing the relationship that then enables us to do research together, to work with non-academic societal partners for the impact of the work, find other schemes, create opportunities for joint provision, create the necessary underpinning for actually aiming to have the programs that you're discussing in law and other developments that actually are new provision or connecting at program level. And connection at program level requires already a set of established relationships, both at the level of the partnership, so all the effort and the commitment and the good work and everything that we heard, but also between the whole of the team, the whole academic team across the institution who would participate. And that is absolutely fundamental, and it takes time. And often it's something that is only done after we start working together and after we actually have the experience of working with each other's students. Okay, I'm going to zoom through because I think I covered most of it. I can send you some further information, but as I said, you can find it online. The actual part of what this does is that we talk internationalization and we're thinking internationalization as going out. What is very important is that this process of working moves us beyond this sort of home and abroad. And to me, this is also a binary that I'm very keen in challenging, because it's very linear and it's actually a very static way of understanding how we can globalize, how we can internationalize our student experience. So what we are doing is also to think of how we can create a deep internationalization in the curriculum and also making sure that we enable our students to come together for their social and other professional interests, which are not necessarily something that would be covered by one single program. So we have a lot of an established intercultural training program, which connects with all the other offering we have. We've established social communities like the Global Connections community, and that brings thousands of students together to share their social interests. And this is also something that became fully digital during COVID, and that actually enabled us to connect students who come and participate from partner institutions for short programs to stay in touch after they graduate or they finish the activity. So I'm going to come to an end because we need to have time for conversation, and I want to take questions. I didn't pose for questions to follow my instructions of making sure that we don't eat the time from the end. But a dynamic, what I really is important is the need to see internationalization as a process. Is not something we can achieve with 1 or 2 or 500 activities. It needs to come together. It needs to be the sum of the work and the experience we have in the micro-programming, in all the good experiences and initiatives that have worked, and the strategy. So it needs to connect the strategy and the daily experience across our institutions and provide a way to go from the schemes and the programs and the courses to the vision, the ideals and the aims of the strategy, and to make the ultimate use of our partners and ourselves. So what you have here, the people, the places, so basically the sites, and you gave such a fantastic example with the work you do in Pretoria. Where can we actually have presence through our students, through participation? How can we maximize that? Not for the sake of moving my physical body from place A to place B, but for the transformational potential of the learning activities that we want to give to the students. This is absolutely fundamental. What is it that our students do there, and how can this connect with the totality of their experience is really fundamental for achieving internationalization. And of course, this also has to do with the work that we do internationally. We can't achieve a global campus, we can't achieve global learning in and by ourselves, obviously. And in order to do that, we need to have the type of the partnership, also the diversity of the partnership that enables us to be more than the sum of our parts. This is very much has become a cliche, and I really dislike cliches, of which education we have many, right? This sort of let's imagine, or yeah, let's have 50% mobility. Well, yeah, of course, let's have it. I mean, if we don't have the structure and the policy tools that enables us to have 1%, it's empty words, right? But actually, partnerships in 2023 matter when we go beyond an A and a B, kind of connecting for a little while and then going their parallel ways. We need to articulate what is it that we do together that we cannot do separately. That is a fundamental one. We need to have an answer, and that's what strategies, and why we need to also have and articulate and translate what internationalization looks like and what transformational towards the direction looks like for our institutions. What are the indicators that will tell us that it is working? What is it, and how can we make sure that we have the structures that can support us going towards these indicators? That is the only way we can actually really bring the level of change that we aspire to bring. And we need, because as Professor Ayo was saying, we do not have the luxury of not working together. The problems we face are global, are complex, go beyond the borders of our countries, of our disciplines, of our languages, of our nations, of our funders, and so on. They require us to work together in different ways that we actually had in the past. And that's an opportunity. I really don't like the deficit approach. I didn't like all these sort of things, nothing works. We don't have these, we can't do policy, regulators, or that. Yes, fine. What is it that we can do? And we have a lot of power and a lot of agency to make impact. I strongly believe that we need a portfolio, a diversity of activities. We need to have a structure and a system to prioritize and to give to our departments and to our students opportunities to participate in the ways that apply across a discipline, to have a collective narrative of what internationalization means, because we have parallel dialogues, right? We talk about internationalization, but what does this actually mean? And that is really a very important question that then can connect with how do we get from a module that makes a course, the program, the department, the school, the university. It needs to have a red thread that would bring everything together. And in this journey, we can only succeed if we actually do it with partners who are like-minded and would enable us to actually leverage what works. So this is a piece of work that I've already referred to for those of you who had who've been in some of our other conversations earlier this week, which is under the Guild, which is a network of research-intensive universities. And we've been working on a project on the future of education since 2021. We have two position papers on reimagining the future of higher education, where we talk about how we can embed research-led pedagogy throughout the life cycle. So from undergraduate students to our PhD and our research and impact work we do in our institutions. And we also then followed that with a second policy paper on transnational collaboration and mobility. This is all open access, and I can send you further information if you're interested in following up. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much. Yes. The last word that I wanted to say is that the core point is that if we are, what we need in order to be sustainable is to actually find what has worked, what is working, and how we can scale this up, and then extend and expand good practice to make the maximum use of resource in the best ways we can. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joe. I think we don't have an option but to work together. And what we are trying to do at the University of Lagos is to build a community of practice around internationalization. So we have a plan which we are going to share with all of us. And then we want feedback based on those plans, which actually seems to cover most of the things that have been presented here today. Before we take questions, please, because Peter has got just like 5 minutes to leave, I'm going to invite the DVC, Development Services, to just give him just a token that we have for him so that we don't miss that.
Very much, Peter. Thank you very much, Joe. Peter and Joe have been with us since Monday, and it's time for Peter will have to leave very soon because he has a flight to catch. But I can tell you that if you look very closely, Peter is a feature of the campus, University of Lagos campus, because I think this is your second time this year. Fourth time this year. So, I mean, finding Peter is not such a challenge. And I think that the conversations, and I know him, he's somebody that you can even relate with out of this formal setting. So once you have his email, you can always reach him. Our collaboration with Dundee has not just been around academics and research. Dundee was the first university, at least in recent times, that together we curated some study exchange for the non-teaching. And we had people from the registry, records office, academic affairs, student affairs, as well as the bursary. Spent like a week with them last year, just exploring and hoping that that can help them revision, what changes we need to make around here and what areas we're strong in, and we only just need to continue to do what it is we're doing. So we don't make it all academic. I'm going to invite Dr. Folashade Ipaye, the former registrar of the university, who has the responsibility of managing this center and who continues to give us, the ambience in the center is quite nice. So we want to thank you for the work you're doing, and we'd just like you to. So Peter, and I'll just hand this over to you.
Peter, it seems like if I change your color, you're an African and a Nigerian. So this is with pleasure from the University of Lagos, the Office of International Relations, Partnership and Prospects. We appreciate your relationship with us, and now you have been there for us all the time. This will bring memories of your time in Lagos.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You want to open it?
Great. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be part of the national collaboration continue to grow with strength to strength. And I think so many times around this week, the core of that successful collaboration is built on human contact and trust and understanding. So whenever we go out and make partnerships, I always think about the strength of the relationship that we have here as sort of an exemplar of best practice. So thank you so much for this.
If you still have, yes. Peter, do you still want to take one question? Okay, so do we have any question for Peter before he leaves?
Yeah, when he was talking about partnerships, number of partnerships, I was wondering because he said that there could be multiple partnerships, but it shouldn't be too much. But I don't know, we use the word massive to describe a multiplicity of partnerships. I want to know, is it not proper and even more ideal for every department in a university to have a partnership with another university abroad? I don't know, for instance, if you have 20 departments in a university, there should be at least 20 partnerships. Is it too much to have that? And if that is acceptable, what should a university like University of Lagos do to ensure that possibility?
Great, thank you very much. So in terms of partnerships, a number of partnerships, I think that the fundamental question, well, there are several fundamental questions. The starting point is there needs to be a commitment within the relevant academic unit that they want to work with the other potential partner, and they are prepared to do what is necessary to make that partnership a success. Now, obviously, the relationship the University of Dundee has with Unilag is a very, very key, very, very crucial strategic partnership. So we have invested a lot of time and energy into it. And it requires a lot of resource. But we do have other partnerships where which work well, but where that connection is not quite as strong. So I think in terms of deciding how many partnerships to enter into, each discipline needs to decide in consultation with the central partnership unit how much capacity there is to make sure that that partnership can succeed. Because going back to something I said earlier, it's a partnership is not just about having a nice signing ceremony and having a nice document that can be filed away to say that we've got this really, really good link with this other university. A partnership is a living, breathing document. It's making sure that there's ongoing regular connection, whether it's for education purposes, whether it's capacity building, whether it's furthering joint research activities. And that requires ongoing active engagement on the part of both sides. So in terms of numbers, my advice when I was the school lead for internationalization was to make sure that each of the disciplines within my school knew that this would be the amount of work that would be required to make a potential new partnership viable, and that the lead of each discipline had to make sure that she or he had the resource to deploy to be able to realize that. So it's a strategic decision within each discipline to make sure, have we got the time, have we got the capacity, have we got the staff who are prepared to invest in this link to actually make the objectives set out in the document a reality. So there's no one size fits all. It depends on the size of the unit. It depends on the amount of time and resource there is available. So it may be a small number, it may be a large number. Joe, not sure if you want to say anything.
Absolutely. So there is a matter of central capacity and the fact that partnerships are not all, it's not in one size fits all. So a university would have strategic partners that would be across, so would have this sort of engagement across all areas of activity, and there would be alignment in the thinking, in the priorities, in the synergies, in where universities are going. That doesn't mean that there is no scope for other partnerships, which may be very important for parts of our disciplinary offering, or could be part of our education portfolio, but not the research, and vice versa, or part of the impact work. So what we need to do more of as a sector, which we didn't used to, is to actually have a way to differentiate and have a layering system of partnerships. What we certainly need, there is no magic number, but we certainly know, and we have seen it, that in order to make partnerships meaningful, we need to go from the concept of the MOU between two individuals who actually find a lot of energy and enthusiasm for collaboration, to really looking the relevance across. And if we agree that scalability is very important, that obviously also comes with a need of prioritization. And of course, it means that if one institution has 350 partners, which in the kind of European Erasmus context often was the case with individual department relationships, not all of those would be able to actually achieve strategic projects and developments. So definitely it needs to be both discipline specific to make sure that we cover the needs of all our schools and departments, but also that to map with what and how strategic partnerships can translate across the board.
Thank you very much. Still looking at students' engagement, I observed that we have a lot of talk about international relationship with students at the higher level. That's the master's and the PhD. But when you get to the undergraduate level, we don't seem to really talk about this student engagement. So I would ask, because I can see that happening, you find that a lot of us lecturers at the undergraduate level, we don't really know what's happening with the international, unit or the international students. And yet we do have students that are not our students. So probably another observation is that some of them hide because the payment, the funding is a bit higher if you identify yourself as an international student at the undergraduate level. So I would ask, from your own side, what do you think would be our strategy in terms of policy that would give provisions to, would I say, support more of undergraduate international students in a university like ours?
Great, thank you very much. If I think of our own experiences, we are very much trying to do more to connect our undergraduate students internationally. So we've got a couple of objectives that we're taking forward. One is, you heard the principal talk about the Blantyre Declaration, the agreement the University of Dundee has with the 6 public universities in Malawi. So as a pilot to help our students at Dundee understand more about the experiences of students in Malawi and vice versa, we are connecting our students in medicine. So the students in the medical society are being connected with medical students at Kuhes University in Malawi, and they're going to meet regularly to work on projects. And in that way, it's going to foster understanding between the two countries. And what we ultimately hope to be able to secure funding for is to introduce more short-term visits and exchanges between Dundee and our partner institutions in Africa. So students from Dundee can spend a week, 2 weeks at the partner institution, and students from those institutions can spend time in Scotland and to learn more. We're going to use medicine as a pilot because there are already students from Dundee who undertake electives there. We're going to try and create funding to bring students from our African partner medical schools to Dundee as well. And I think, Joe, in your presentation, you talked about you've got different internships and online workshops.
Yeah, so to give you an example, and that's really the heart of it. And I so much agree with what you're saying about the need to think of the undergrads from day one. So to give you an example about the WISP, the Warwick International Intensive Study Program, this is a no fees program for now. So in a sense, it works between Warwick and our strategic partners. Students can take the program as part of the curriculum. It's part of our exchange agreement. And we're moving from exchange as in one-to-one linear to much more of thinking how we can have multiple diverse type of exchanges, which are short-term, both blended, some are online, some are physical and face-to-face. And then also in the co-curricular space where you saw what I basically showed about teamwork, internships, but also schemes like undergraduate research to support that, so students can work with some of our own in an interdisciplinary project, either within their institution or a partner institution. So to actually have schemes that can be embedded across undergraduate curricula. Another part that we're doing and didn't have time to cover today is within the context of alliances. So the Utopia Alliance, we are creating, the model we're taking is the creation of learning communities. You can think of those as communities of practice, where basically we have colleagues across the institutions participating in the alliance, coming together, that's the Utopia's 10 partners and our global partners, to actually see how we can enhance the learning and the research activities, but basically the learning experience of our students. So through that, through the alliance, we have a whole range of different learning products, which is from joint assessment, from short-term mobility, from sort of guest lectures. And I can send you more or less like a catalog, if that helps, where we can actually use a lot of the power of the online, but then also that is almost like a foundation for short-term mobility, which can lead to a study abroad, which can lead to a placement in areas where we have more organic opportunities. So medical schools, we have similar schemes on that and so on with our partners. So, but I'm very interested how that translates across. So what happens when we have history, when we have chemistry, when we have engineering, when we have modern languages, where we have linguistics, when we actually have biology, and actually see how we can have microprogramming and some of the other more traditional, if you want, schemes on the table in a portfolio of activity.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some other questions. Yes, please. And you can take them.
Yeah, no, happy to continue. I'm here until my flight is tomorrow at 11, so in the evening. So we have more than 24 hours to talk. So no rush.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Priscilla, Department of Mass Communication. My question is on, throughout the presentation, I didn't hear anything about sports. Yes. So I want to ask, is there a place for sports in this internationalization? And how does that work for universities?
Just give it 1 minute until everything is settled again. It's a very good question about sports, and actually sports scholarships are some of the most established programs in the sector. It is something that in the UK is growing much more than it used to actually be part of the offering that we have. We also have some really interesting work that is happening in the online sports, creative gaming. So we actually also see sport broadly put, but also sport in relation to education and creating communities and sort of the strength of it. So I didn't talk about this as a priority area on the kind of programs that we have at Warwick, but definitely it's something that is growing and we're doing, and it is absolutely a way to bring communities together because it has visibility with funders. So we can actually again channel and connect sports related activities and scholarships with learning activities in a portfolio that we didn't used to have. So we had sports scholarships with particular institutions, not necessarily connecting with other type of learning activities like the ones that I showed. That is, again, a missed opportunity for coherence and connectedness. So it's a good point that you actually have. It is definitely a tool for doing and deepening partnership. The colleague over there, I think, had a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Dr. David, economics, from economics department. So you talked about internationalization of education as a process, and I agree with you. Now, when we talk about internationalization, it is making education global. I think in the future, it's quite important that we also think about how we strengthen our curriculum in the area of language. For instance, if you are studying economics, you can also add to it, for instance, French, Japanese, or Chinese. In essence, that helps you, to not just understand, the language for which the course is being delivered, such that if you find yourself in China or in Japan, you can easily be absorbed to that system. I also think that when we talk about internationalization of education, we should also talk about how do we understand the culture. For instance, you are studying Nigeria, you understand Yoruba culture, for instance, Igbo culture, Hausa culture. But it's quite important that you also understand, for instance, the English culture, or what is the American culture, or the culture of the Chinese. So I think that is also important. So we do not just study a course without understanding other international languages.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much. So my chair at the University of Warwick is in sociolinguistics. So you're talking to a linguist. So definitely what you're saying is my heart and my mind and my educational leadership and research evidence that I have entirely agrees with you. It is really important to think how we can embed opportunities for language learning. It is one of the targets in our internationalization strategy, is to increase language learning opportunities. That is definitely something that we can achieve through partnerships. It is very visible. It's a bit like with the conversation with sports. It's something that we know that it can actually done through immersion, through different ways of actually mobilizing and enabling students to work in target languages with their partners, giving them more opportunities to experience the language in use. And that's something that works very well with the work that is happening now with the university alliances. Now, that's why exactly also to experience the language is also to empower and legitimize the students to use all the languages they have as part of the learning process, and to make those connections with their professional trajectory and understanding culture in multiple ways. Now, it is one of the reasons why I really believe that we need to give more opportunities for international engagement than one particular scheme or a window where they can go somewhere and come back and that's it. That is either too little too late, or even if it is a great scheme where they can spend a year, it's too much too late. What I would really like, my vision, is to have a portfolio of learning activities for the students where they can engage and learn with peers from other institutions throughout their degree, starting from year one, and then seeing how they can participate in micro activities and connect with some of the bigger schemes, and some take opportunities with the strategic partners, but also take opportunity of working with other partners, which are very relevant for one discipline, but not for the whole university, and then make those connections. The way that they would be able to be the global citizen and intercultural aware, that in a sense is your aspiration, is through participation and experiential learning in ways that is actually really transformational. And this is really why we need to go beyond this very static, narrow understanding of partnership or exchange or global learning. So that was a very elaborate way to say, yes, I agree. Yes. That goes beyond my technical ability. Yeah.
One reason why your dick can't get hard. Guys, some bitches are just too aggressive. For example, you ever been talking to a bitch for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, and y'all done sent each other nudes, y'all done talked about fucking and shit, and then it's time for y'all to meet up and the vibe is good, everything going smooth, until it's time for you to fuck, and she just too goddamn aggressive. For example, she taking off her clothes without you saying shit. She got on the lace thong with the matching bra looking extra fucking good. She just hop on and start straddling your dick without
All right. Thank you. All right. So I would like you to speak a little bit more about the value-based approach to internationalization pedagogy, especially as it concerns, we have some of our students that come over to have their master's or PhD, but they are made to have a kind of retraining for a year before, going into the main course. So my thoughts there is that, is it that our policies or our content is not good enough that makes it that, when they come to do an international course somewhere abroad, they need to do something like a retraining? So how do we begin to look at such experiences from not happening again? Yeah.
Thank you. That's very important. Again, I mean, we can talk more detail what exactly you have in mind in terms of disciplinary program. That, as a more general, higher level comment, is the more we work together to understand each other's provision and do a landscape of what we do, what are the programs, the learning outcomes, and find the ways to connect the students is in a coherent way, is actually the best way to both avoid or find ways where this can be opportunity for all our students if there is something that we want to offer as training across the program. So what I think is a missed opportunity is that it's a missed opportunity is also a symptom of how partnerships in the past would evolve and develop, which would not be through, first of all, investing the time to build a relationship, to build a community that would enable us to actually do a landscape of our provision, a landscape of the outcomes of our provision, what we expect students do, what is the experiences that we take for granted and so on. So I very much saw the success of the model that we piloted under Utopia with learning communities, because that was basically bringing academics, bringing colleagues across the participating universities to do a mapping of, okay, we have common interest and growth in priority areas, from multilingualism to AI, to project management, to public health. What do we do? Where are we going? How can we actually bring our students together in a way that adds value to their experience? And foregrounding this conversation as part of building the partnership, building the community, is the way to making the best use of an opportunity that we actually have. And that's something that actually we really need, because otherwise we learn through sometimes what has worked really well, but also sometimes what hasn't worked for the students. And what I would really like is to avoid taking an opportunity for a student to participate in a year abroad or a program of exchange if we don't have already done the scaffolding to actually make sure that the student would maximally benefit from the experience. I think learning communities is a model that I really strongly believe in. So in the 2.5 years of the pilot of the Utopia, we connected 6,000 students and over 200 staff. That is very important, because when we set new alliances or partnerships, the most difficult part is for you all to go back to your departments and to see the same level of relevance. It is often very relevant where we already have connections and relationships in one part of the institution, but not in other parts. So you will find a lot of information online, and I can send you more on the model that the model that underpins the work we do with the central education team of the Utopia. I hope that answers your question. You're raising very important points, very, very important. I mean, or at least I agree with what you're raising as very important. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. So how much?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, we'll take all 4 questions and then we'll see how we can synthesize. Start. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to ask this question, how you can help us overcome this issue. We have some program that we have less subscription from the part of the students. And some of the time they are being taken because that is the last option. How can we use this internationalization to solve this kind of problem, to encourage students to intentionally come for
Very
this
good
program?
question. So I think I can spend the rest of the day on this. I'm not going to do that because I can actually already see Professor AU starts moving. So I think they probably are saying, okay, you had here since Monday, maybe time to actually just stop talking. But it's such an important one. 2 points, very, very quickly. One is to obviously, again, through working with others who actually also offer provision in the area, to see what works, what is attractive, why something attracts more interest, how what we offer is synchronized to the lived experience of the students. The other is, of course, that sometimes we have specialized provision, which is important, and we want to continue offering specializing provision. And by opening through an alliance or a partnership, a small program can become bigger, and that improves the learning experience of everybody. And then again, that's why communities and the sort of strong bilateral, multilateral is very important.
Thank you so much. So first, this has been a phenomenal session and I've really enjoyed this. I just wanted to make one comment. As we talk about internationalization, one thing we haven't talked a lot about is faculty and the ways in which by collaborating and working with faculty, we're also strengthening those ties. And so, you know, at Emory, we've done some work to help build capacity among faculty specifically around conducting research in collaboration with investigators at Emory. So I just wanted to kind of throw out this idea of the Hubert Humphrey Fellows Program. I talked a little bit about this on Monday, but this is a program for mid-career professionals to get funding to come to the US for a year and take courses and learn in various areas of study related to global health, but also just contribute to our environment at Emory and enhance our environment by bringing your expertise over. And so I just want to make sure that the conversation comes back to the role of faculty as well.
Absolutely, very important. And very important because there are established schemes like this one that target staff exchange and staff development. Really important to take those opportunities. European University Alliances, European Commission funding has specific schemes for that. Partnerships are really important, and that's academic faculty. So the learning communities, again, are critical for this because the learning communities basically bring faculty together to actually start having this conversation. And that is very much part of creating the community. It gives opportunity for own development in different ways, career progression, and so on. And the other part is also the same applies to professional services, because unless we also have ways to exchange professional services and administration, we have a really missed opportunity for the spine that we need in order to make things happen. We can't make things happen only on our academic leadership and ideas. Everybody is very stretched. The resources are a huge issue. The minute we leave in this room, we go back to our inbox and we find 3,000 emails that happily are accumulating as we're here talking. You have to teach, mark, do administration, do leadership, support your younger colleagues, support your students, yourself, write, publish, teach, all that, right? So we're all very stretched. So we need to find how we can best work together and how we can learn from what works in different institutions for faculty development and professional services development. Okay, and yes.
As an undergraduate, I think student organizations are very vital in spreading the word about international relations. So I want to ask, how does University of Warwick ensure that they are carrying along the student associations in internationalization?
Very good question. So we have a student union, which, well, it's both internationalization, but it's actually how we engage with student representation and student voice. Student voice is one of our priorities. We have been really focused in making sure that we have clear structures for students' feedback and input. So you have the student union that has its own structure, and there are student societies, and there are student union officers, and you have education officers, but also you have officers who actually have internationalization as part of the portfolio and working with international students, as well as all our students, of course. Then you have through the system of a very established system in the UK. I'm going very fast because I think we're running out of time. We have the staff students, we call it staff student liaison committees, a very established way of students giving input and being part of the work that is happening in a department. So a staff student committee is exactly what it says on the tin. And through that, of course, internationalization is also on the table, as it is a priority that all departments would participate in. So that's where the strategy is important, because it gives the opportunity to connect the student representation mechanisms with strategic development of the institution. Then at Warwick, we have the system of department student-staff relationship feeding at faculty level. So there is faculty representation, and there is also faculty level officers. And what I established as part of my internationalization role is to have an International Education Student Board, ISB, which actually interfaces with other systems of student representation to actually find how we can specifically look into some of our established schemes and strategic partnerships that we have with our partner institutions in Europe, in Australia, in North America, how in Africa, in Asia. So basically how this actually really translates. What does this mean? And how, when we have big programs or projects, how visible they are and how the students themselves can feed into leading some of the development. So it is definitely an area that we are really keen. Student participation and student voice is really, really big part of it, and is also a very big part in strategy development. So the strategy I presented was very much co-developed with 120 students who work with me in different ways to design and I hope own it. Because otherwise we talk about the student without really being student-centered, which is what I think everybody in this room wants.
Okay. Thank you very much because of the time. So I'm going to ask the Dean of the Faculty of Management Sciences to give a token of appreciation to Joe. So Dean, please. Joe. I wish I had the power to extend your stay by maybe another 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But the time is no longer there. So we are really appreciative of you. Really enjoy your contributions towards successful programs we have been having for the past how many days now? Since Monday. We appreciate you. We have this token for you. Beautiful when you open it. Don't do it here. I can open it. Okay. And some 2 hours ago, she was discussing with a colleague there about how beautiful our cloth was then. Looks like, yeah, now you are getting it, real life. We have more. We have more. You can't take it all away. So after this, another one. Interesting. Okay, this from the research. Very interesting. Professor Joe Angouri, University of what I see here is Warwick, but when they pronounce, they say Warwick. So as a plenary speaker at the 16th Unilag Annual Research Conference and Fair, that day, not this day is 11, that day. Today is 12th. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We wish you continue having good relationships. And the DVC Development Services also had some relationship with your university. Yes, an alumnus of the university. So hopefully I will be one too. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for very generous hospitality. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of the conversation. When we started this conversation, what Professor Ismail said that once I come, I won't want to leave. I really had an excellent stay. I learned a lot. I hope we are opening a dialogue that will continue. We have a lot to learn together and a lot we can achieve together. And I thank you for giving me the honor and the privilege of being part of the works of this week. And hopefully we have established a relationship that is going to continue for the years to come. And we're going to build on the very strong relationship that Warwick has given us with also making sure that others come and join us. So we actually grow the alumni community, but we also really grow the opportunity to build a synergy and to really think how we can actually use our role in our different ecosystems to really move and lead the change that we want to bring. So thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I invite Dr. Anyikwa, please, to come and give a token of appreciation to Professor Kimberly Ariola.
Prof. You're surprised. I know. Indeed, we have noticed you and we're really appreciative of you. I heard you said it was your first time in Nigeria. I do hope that it won't be the last time. Yes, and that you really enjoyed yourself here. On behalf of our Vice Chancellor and the DVC and all the students and staff of the University of Lagos, we want to say thank you to you. We really enjoyed your panel discussion. It was very engaging. I was there, so I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
A few things. Wow, this really is very kind. I just have to admit, I was in my office over the summer and had an opportunity to meet your Vice Chancellor. She came by, we met very briefly. In a 25-minute meeting, I was so taken back by her. I was inspired by her as a leader. I saw in her a potential mentor for me and someone who I could learn and grow from. And so when she invited me to International Week, I thought, well, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it involves, but maybe I should consider this. And so I'll admit that I came not fully knowing what I was going to do here this week. I didn't exactly know, but it felt right to me. It felt like this is where I needed to be at this moment in time. I feel in many ways divinely ordained. It was divinely ordained that I would be here this week. And I cannot tell you how inspirational, how powerful, how deeply impactful this week has been for me as a person, as a faculty member, and as an administrator. I am blown away by the level of kindness and generosity of spirit and time that I've received during my time here. You all are just the kindest people. I have felt so much love and warmth, and I promise you, I will be back. I have scribbled many notes of all the things I would love to do when I get back to the US to bring students with me. It is my dream to come back with students the next time I come back and just continue to learn and grow from you. Relationships have been built, the bridge is built, and you will see me again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what's left is just to again appreciate all of us, but importantly, the members of the International Week Committee, because this is the last event that we're going to be having for the International Week. So starting from Professor Bumi Orenuga, she's not here, but I know that perhaps she joined online. Professor Olatunde Otusanya, please. Professor Khalid Adekoya, he just stepped out. You can appreciate him. Professor Aderonke Samuel, that was our MC on the first day. Dr. Miriam Omalara Kodri. Thank you very much. Dr. Ibukun Adewale, CITS, not here. You can just appreciate him. Thank you. Dr. Mary Akinyemi, again, not here. You can just appreciate her. Dr. Obiageli Modebelu, I think she just, yeah, she's there. Dr. Feyi Ademoladoye, she's not around. You can just appreciate him. Mrs. Adejoke Alaga, head of communications, she's not here. Just appreciate. Mrs. Noye Ogwama, is she here? Okay, you can appreciate her. Mrs. Aregbe Shola, Student Affairs, thank you so much. Mrs. Ajelabi, yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Ishola Ebenezer, thank you so much. Samuel Ejiwumi is not here, thank you. Olayinka Omotola, thank you so much. Mrs. Taiwo, Eunice Taiwo, Thank you so much. Mrs. Latifat Adekola, the head of protocol. Thank you. Mr. Olutokpe Akintola, protocol. Outside, thank you. Mrs. Indidi Jennifer, communications. Thank you so much, she's there. Mr. Agbenga of security. Thank you so much. Mrs. Modupe Williams from the International Office. Thank you so much. Ms. Toyin Ganiu, International Office. Thank you so much. And Mr. Abdulatif Yusuf, the Secretary. Thank you so much. And of course, we have to thank profoundly the DVC Development Services under which the International Office works. Thank you so much, ma'am. And of course, the Vice Chancellor, the management, the students and staff, and of course, everyone that is inside this room. Thank you so much for making this a special International Week. Thank you so much. So our lunch will be, I think the lunch is ready. So as we're going out, we just collect our packed lunch. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much.